happened in the last video.
He just nonchalantly shoves some sort of gigantic axe in front of us, like, oh yeah, look at this, I found it! Look at what I did!
And here is more MrDudeManSir.
It's time. Kyoji! Oh, this is her. This is the woman. Kyoji has nothing to do but wait in the stale, moldy air. He has spent almost half a day inside the dark, empty study, straining his ears for the slightest hint of movement below. Few people could endure such a vigil, but Kyoji has accomplished it without the slightest complaint. It's not that it hasn't been hard, but he hasn't minded the suffering. Rather than have nothing to do with his razor-sharp nerves, he prefers to sharpen them further through self-abuse. Without a doubt, his single-minded focus is the only thing allowing him to push the limits of his stamina. Kyoji understands this. He finds it pleasing to inflict pain on himself. Now that the man he thought was the best friend had turned into a world upside down, Kyoji wants nothing more than to destroy all of this insanity, including his own betrayed self. The willpower that comes from self-hatred is stronger than long-lasting than any faith or resolve, no matter how noble. Thinking that Fuminori might be using this house as a hideout, Kyoji snuck inside carefully, hoping perhaps to take Fuminori by surprise. It was only after he got inside that he realized that the house was just as abandoned as it had been before. Even so, Kyoji was sure that Fuminori would arrive earlier than promised 7 p.m. in order to set up an ambush. However, the sunlight streaming through the windows turned red, and fading in the darkness was no sign of anyone coming to the house. Kyoji found this patience growing weaker and weaker by the moment. And now it's 7 p.m. Just as Kyoji's frustration is about to peak, his phone begins to vibrate and flash. Back in, what is this, 2003, they had vibrating phones? Whoa! That is some technological advances there. It's from Fuminori. He's calling rather than to show himself. Despite his anger at having been tricked, Kyoji manages to keep his voice calm as he answered. What's going on here, Fuminori? Well, I was worried that you might be wasting energy or something silly like planning an ambush, Fuminori says, chuckling scornfully. It's kinda late, but I guess I should tell you that the real rendezvous point before you lose your mind. Did I make it in time? Oh boy. Come on, don't get mad, I'm just being careful, right? Fuminori laughs with unrestrained malevolence, as though to emphasize that he's been through Kyoji's plans, seen through them. Assuming you're Professor Ogai's house, there's a place nearby within walking distance. Yo and I are there. Anyway, first go back to your car and use a GPS. I'll tell you the address. You have any proof that this isn't a trick too? If you're that paranoid, you don't have to come. Just turn tail and run. Fuminori hangs up immediately after speaking his challenge. I think that's what Kyoji was just saying right there as he thrown his phone or whatever he just did. He leaps out of his chair, he kicks it. I imagine he would do some sort of amazing grunt as well when he did that. Unable to find any outlet for his rage. However, he has no choice but to do what Fuminori says. He knows that his exhaustion is at its peak. If he stops now, cars will drive by him all the time, left and right. He'll probably collapse like a marionette with his strings cut. Only through his relentless obsession is he able to push his body beyond its limits. If he allows himself even a moment's rest, he fears that he'll never again be able to find the courage or willpower to face this incident. If he truly wants to kill Fuminori, tonight is his only chance. Kyoji knows, of course, that his enemy is probably planning to ambush him. Fuminori isn't going to be chivalrous and fight fair, not that Kyoji has any right to complain. Kyoji leaves the house and heads for his accord, moving like he's half asleep. It's time. We're nearly there. I am so pumped. I want Kyoji to win. He has a gun, but there is a 3-on-1 up ahead. Though Yo can't do anything, Saya is some sort of monster. I hope to learn what she is about whenever I go up here during this battle. Then he has a gun. I hope he gets a collateral shot through both of their heads with one bullet. It's something. Do a 360 no scope through both of their heads, and I'll be so happy about that. Only the base of these foothills have been developed into a residential area. The address Fuminori gave Kyoji is outside the area, at the tree-covered top of one of the hills. His car's GPS shows a road that leads nowhere, but according to Fuminori, there should be an old abandoned sanctorium here. It is definitely a place that no one could find, even by accident. Maybe this next stop really will be the last. Kyoji drives up to the steep incline, soon leaving the houses behind, even though the hands of progress are right at his doorstep. The undeveloped forest is darker than he expected. This looks like a great place to live in secret, or to kill someone in secret. These forgotten places aren't only found far away from cities. Even when surrounded by people, places that draw no attention become blind spots in the world. A broken down gatepost suddenly appears in the Accord's headlights, like a ghost rising from the darkness. It looks like this is the final stop. Kyoji rolls up to the gate and turns off the engine, giving himself the silence of the forest. His cell phone starts ringing almost immediately. He doesn't need to check who it's from, of course, because it's Fuminori. I'm here. Yeah, I heard you. Welcome to my new humble abode. Fuminori is nearby, close enough to hear the sound of the Accord's engine. A shiver of excitement shoots up Kyoji's spine. Come inside. Yo is waiting. Fuminori hangs up without another word. After grabbing his new mag light from the glove compartment and checking that his revolver is still in his pocket, Kyoji opens the door and gets out of the car. Mountains of trash litter the modest front yard, forming a serviceable barricade. Kyoji sees piles of everything from small refrigerators to mopeds and huge chunks of concrete and plaster that are obviously abandoned by the construction workers. The fact that they could get away with leaving all the stuff behind shows just how remote this place is. The moon is brighter than usual, allowing Kyoji to walk unaided through the front yard without tripping on anything. Staying alert, he heads for the building beyond the mountains of trash. Something must be buried underneath the piles of garbage, because the whole yard is filled with sharp stink of chemicals. Even homeless people probably wouldn't come to this place, much less live here. If you need to get out of the wind or rain, there are plenty of places more suitable than this. How many times has he stood alone like this in some ominously silent plain far away from his everyday life? It's as though sneaking into deathly quiet houses and finding traces of unimaginable happiness had become as normal as going to class. The houses that I've explored before were empty and dilapidated, but the necessary trappings of life were still present. They were like the freshly shed cicada shells. This place, however, is different. The building is a perfect ruin, its walls and pillars rising from the dark forest like an army of ghosts, with no sign at all that people once lived and worked there. The structure resembles a skeleton more than a cicada shell. Time and the elements have stripped it of its former shape, and now there is only death. Kyoji has gone far as he can. This must be the final stop. What will Fuminori's next move be? Find out next time. The next episode. There's no question that he's planning to make Kyoji disappear. But how? Just as he's about to turn on his mag light, Kyoji reconsiders. If he wanders around with the light on, he'll be broadcasting his exact location. That'll give the advantage to Fuminori, who's most likely laying an ambush for him. He holds the mag light before him in his left hand, with its finger poised on the switch. In his right hand, he raises the revolver, keeping both the gun and the mag light pointed in the same direction, so he can be ready to aim at whatever shows up when he turns on the light. Kyoji steps quietly into the dark ruin. It takes a while for his eyes to adjust, but even then, he has only the moonlight streaming through the empty windows to guide him. Everything appears gray and indistinct. However, Fuminori has to deal with the same conditions if he's hiding here. This is a battle of nerves, exhausting and dangerous, where the first to make the sound and give away his position loses. The rooms on both sides of the hallway are all open, some even missing their doors. Kyoji sides up to each entrance, checking to make sure no one is inside, then carefully proceeds on. The stink that has been assaulting his nostrils since before entering the old building has changed. Now it smells more organic, like rotting meat. It's exactly the same smell that was filling Fuminori's house. Squish. At the sudden noise, Kyoji freezes and stares down at the hall. It was a wet sound, like someone dragging their feet through a swamp, and it came from the room at the end of the hall. Something is there, something that can make noise. Moving silently and keeping his light and gun at the ready, Kyoji creeps in the direction of the sound. Squish. Now it sounds strange, like someone squeezing mud through their fingers, and as he gets closer, Kyoji begins to hear some kind of animal's labored breathing. Could it be Fuminori? No, that's impossible. He should be holding on his breath somewhere, waiting for a chance to ambush Kyoji, not carelessly making noise. As he proceeds, the strange sound coming through the cracks in the concrete walls becomes clearer and clearer. Kyoji finds himself staring at the entrance to a room. It's filled with thick, vicious darkness, just like every other room that he's passed. There is more than just darkness, however. Something is definitely there. You can hear pain breathing, like that of a wounded animal, and what sounds like sobbing. Sobbing? Who's there? Kyoji whispers into the darkness. Now that he's giving away his position by speaking, he might as well turn on his light. For some reason, however, Kyoji hesitates to do something so irreversible. Sobbing. The last time I ever heard her voice, on the phone, she was sobbing. The wheezing suddenly stops as though whatever it is holding its breath. And then... Kyoji-kun? A whisper comes out of the darkness, though not a human voice. Not by any measure. It speaks some blasphemous semblance of human words. A nightmarish flash of insight connects the dots in Kyoji's mind. Tsukaba? It can't be. Tsukaba-yo doesn't sound like that. She doesn't smell like that. Kyoji-kun, please. Oh dear. Oh boy. Kill me. And if it's not Yo, then how does it know Kyoji's name? Why is it begging him for help? Even so, it can't be Yo. She's human. She wouldn't be slithering around like whatever slimy creature is hiding in the darkness. It hurts. It always hurts. This body. Save me, Kyoji-kun. This thing wriggles closer to Kyoji. His reason cries out, imploring him to switch the light in his left hand on before it's too late, or to turn and run if he cannot. However, Kyoji is unable to accept either choice. He can only call out in vain to the amorphous shape in the darkness. Are you Tsukaba? Hey, are you really Tsukaba? Let me die. No more, please. Kill me. Something soft and slimy slides over Kyoji's toes. Instinct completely overrides his will, forcing him to turn on his light and shine it at his feet. Oh, I didn't get to see. The white beam reveals everything. The merciless truth that finally shatters Kyoji's sanity. No, I want to see her. I want to see what she looks like. Come on. God. Terror wiped his mind of everything but two words, gun and trigger, whipping endlessly through his head. His right index finger responds with absolute obedience. Oh boy. This is an instinct of tremendous light and sound, both more intense than he expected, and then the destructive forces are swallowed up by the darkness. His ears are still ringing from the bang, but he hears a weak voice coming from the shadows again. It hurts. Ah! Ah! Kyoji screams and desperately pulls the trigger to get onto her. No, don't do it. No! No! Don't do that! No! You just wasted all your gun bullets! Light and darkness, silence and explosion. They dance their dance 3 or more times. Kyoji doesn't even need to aim, of course. His terrifying enemy is right at his feet, far too close to miss. Ryoko warned him about how many bullets were left in the revolver, but that information has already been driven from his mind. Even after the cold, heavy gloom wraps laps itself around us once more, Kyoji keeps pulling the trigger like a man possessed, paying no attention to the clicking of the empty, worthless revolver. As though his panic-stricken body has just realized how strange it is to be standing on 2 legs, Kyoji loses his balance and goes down hard on his backside. Still frightened out of his mind, he keeps firing the empty gun from a sitting position. He knows no other way to erase the memory of the thing that he saw for a moment in the beam of his maglite. The light which fell from his hand during the attack is now lying on the floor, pointing in a completely different direction. All 4 bullets delivered by Kyoji's finger must have hit their target, enough destruction to kill any human 4 times over, and they were his last card to play. Which means that he is now sitting alone in a pitch black darkness with no way to defend himself. And just as he realizes this, a massive cold rotting flash rolls onto him like a tidal wave. Okay, so Yo is that. And apparently it hurts. He can no longer even scream as he is pushed onto his back, with fear seizing his throat in its iron grip. Kyoji struggles desperately against this thing as it crawls up his body towards his face. Hi. 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 Covering his face with his left hand, he scrambles wildly along the floor with his right, searching for a way out that does not exist. Devoid of everything but primal fear, his mind has regressed to that feral animal. And that, perhaps, is why when his right hand closes around something hard at the last moment, he is able to instinctively recognize it as a weapon. Putting every ounce of his strength into his arm, Kyoji swings the heavy object in his hand at the creature on top of him. With the wet sound of water cushion being struck with a blunt object, Kyoji's attacker rolls off of him. As soon as he is able to move freely, Kyoji leaps to his feet and grabs his new weapon with both hands, as though as a charm to ward off evil. For the first time, he realizes that he's holding a part of a rusty steel pipe. It's sobbing again. Ah! With a cry that's been part of a terrified scream, part enraged roar, Kyoji raises the steel pipe and brings it crashing down on the cowering creature. He hears a wet sound that feels the blood-chilling sensation of his thick, soft flesh absorbing the blow. These combine to evoke a sociological loathing in him that wipes his mind of all but the urge to destroy. Nyeh! Nyeh! Consumed by the same desperation with which he kept firing the empty gun, Kyoji rains blow after blow on his enemy. After the 10th blow, it stops sobbing. After the 20th blow, it stops moving. And after the 30th blow, it begins to feel and sound more and more like he's beating some vicious liquid. Kyoji doesn't stop thrashing the creature until he realizes, or rather recovers enough of his mind to realize, that whatever it might have been, it is no longer anything but a lifeless corpse. The pipe in his hand, covered with unidentifiable fluids and filth, suddenly feels unbearably heavy. The 20 years of memories that he has built up as Tono Kyoji, if they were precious and dear to him, he should never have come to this place. The black flames of despair risen within him, consuming all other emotions. Unsatisfied, they keep burning until their controllable heat sets the blood to boiling. Kyoji recognizes that he has anger. Right now he is undeniably filled with hate and rage toward the person who poisoned him with the truth, and tore his innocence out by the roots. And then Kyoji, slave to hate, hears the breathing of someone sneaking up behind him. Kyoji spins around, swinging the steel pipe with all of the killing force he can muster. His enemy hastily leaps back to avoid the strike, apparently not having expected his surprise attack to be foiled by Kyoji's counter. Twisted shadows dance in the light of a maglite on the floor. Readying his pipe for the next blow, Kyoji faces off against his second attacker, Saisaka Fuminori. Kyoji never imagined that he would ever say this whole friend's name with such hatred. Oh look, he has an axe. Hey, that swing just now. You trying to kill me or something? Even now, Fuminori is smiling, as though the huge axe in his hands is just some kind of joke. Dang. To be honest, I thought you'd hesitate a little bit more. You thought I'd hesitate? Against you? Kyoji sneers too, unable to contain his contempt for Fuminori's ridiculous notion. How did you kill Omi? What did you do to Tsukaba? With all you've done, you expect me to think twice about killing you? That's my line, Kyoji, Fuminori says in a low voice, looking sadly at the pile of meat that Kyoji just beat to death. How dare the likes of you do such a horrible thing to my yo? You'll taste 10 times your pain before I kill you. Prepare yourself. Oh boy. The blade of Fuminori's axe carved a murderous arc through the darkness, glittering menacingly in the faint light coming from the floor. Kyoji raises a pipe to block Fuminori's brute force swing. The shock of the heavy impact shoots down his arms, but his large frame allows him to push the axe back without losing any ground. The axe comes howling down on Kyoji a second time, and then a third. Fuminori's weapon, designed for practical purposes, is significantly stronger and easier to use than the piece of pipe that Kyoji just happened to find on the floor. With his hands full protecting himself from Fuminori's axe, Kyoji is unable to find an opportunity to counterattack. Each strike he blocks sends chunks of rust flying from his pipe. Kyoji blocks a crushing downward swing, then pushes back before Fuminori can pull an axe away, throwing him off balance. Stumbling backward, Fuminori plants his feet again to regain his balance. Taking advantage of his opponent's temporary immobility, Kyoji delivers a punishing low kick to Fuminori's outer thigh. Gah! Fuminori grunts and retreats, swinging his axe wildly to prevent Kyoji from falling up with another attack. Kyoji, however, does not press his advantage. He stands where he is, calmly spearing Fuminori with a stare. You haven't been in many fights, have you? Oh! Oh! Fuminori roars and comes in for another attack, but the damage to his right leg seems to be showing his swing. Easily blocking with the axe with his pipe, Kyoji waits for Fuminori to exhaust himself. Die! Die! Howling crazily, Fuminori delivers a blow after heavy blow. However, the battle has already become one where composure, not brute force, decides the victor. Fuminori realizes his axe high for yet another attack. Kyoji sees that his movements have grown dull enough. Seizing the opportunity, Kyoji charges into Fuminori's range and grabs the haft of the axe with his left hand. Huh? Exclamation point and question mark. As Fuminori recoils in fear, Kyoji brings his pipe crashing on the enemy's unprotected side. He feels the crunch of his ribs breaking. Gah! The pain drives Fuminori to his knees, staring down at Fuminori's defenseless head. Kyoji, surprised by his own lack of emotion, raises his pipe high to deliver the finishing blow, which is when something wraps itself around his left ankle. Oh, what? The instant Kyoji panics at the unexpected sensation, something soft yet strong winds itself around his right leg and drags him to the floor before he can resist. He twists his body and tries to swing the steel pipe at the unseen enemy behind him, but his right hand too is seized by the same flexible force. He wasn't able to feel it through his pants. Okay, but now his blood turns to ice at the cold, slimy sensation of the thing wrapped around his uncovered wrist. The monster is still... That's it. Saya! Fuminori says encouragingly. Even while kneeling on the floor, his face twisted with pain, he manages a terrible, victorious grin. Saya. This thing is... Kyoji struggles desperately trying to free his limbs from the creature's horrifying grip. But more and more tentacles swim over his body like snakes, stealing his freedom of movement. The horror has already driven Kyoji half mad. Just imagining the appearance of this creature attacking him was enough to threaten his sanity. His scream is suddenly cut off by the slimy appendages, seizes his throat. This most deadly tentacle isn't just cutting off his breathing and circulation, it's trying to snap his neck, and it's squeezing tighter and tighter. Oh boy. Oh no! 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 You're not supposed to die! No! Kyoji! Kyoji! No! I will not accept this! I cannot! No! My mind hazy from the pain, I watch as Saya feasts upon her slain prey. We've won! It was hard and I wasn't able to do it alone. But for the first time we worked together to defeat our enemy. The price was steep, of course, and at least 2 of my ribs are definitely broken, sending a sharp pain shooting through my chest every time I breathe. Then there's Yo. I didn't expect her to fall to Kyoji so easily. Unlike Saya, she might have been unfamiliar with how to use her new body in combat. My injury must have fueled Saya's anger. Her slaughter of Kyoji was merciless and complete. As soon as her prey stopped moving, she sank her teeth into her vital organs and ruthlessly extinguished the last embers of life. Though her brutal, grisly actions were becoming of her delicate features, Saya's face, covered in blood and gore, was like that of a victorious queen of beasts lording over a defeated foe. There was something noble and sacred about her primal ferocity that made me reluctant to disturb her. I don't know how long I've been watching over Saya's feasting. I've nearly fainted from the pain several times. To be honest, I'm not used to violence. The wounds I suffered in the car accident are worse, of course, but these broken ribs are the most severe injury that's ever been deliberately inflicted upon me. Anyway, you'd think that Saya could show a little more concern for my condition. Kyoji is already as dead as it can be. There's no reason for her to be in such a hurry. I suddenly realized that Saya has stopped eating. Now she's lying on her back, rolling from side to side. Has she eaten too much? It's been several days since we had fresh, unfrozen meat, so I understand why she could get greedy. But still, I'm wounded here. She can give me a hand. Because I'm preoccupied with my own selfish wants, I'm slow to realize that something is wrong. Saya isn't just lying down, she's trembling in agony. My blood goes cold, and pain from my broken ribs is suddenly forgotten. Saya! I jump on, run to her side, and cradle her fallen body into my arms. Her face is pale and drenched in sweat, and her half-closed eyelids and lips are shivering. It's like she has a fever. What's going on? I have no idea. Could she have sustained a serious wound in the fight without even noticing? Could the meat she has been poisoned somehow? I don't understand. All I know is that fear is quickly overwhelming me. Whoa. Saya! Saya! The only thing I can do is keep calling her name with all of my strength. Saya slowly opens her eyes and gazes vacantly in my terrified face. Fuminori, sorry, I'm fine. Really, I'm fine. It just hurts a little. What's wrong? Well, what is it? Come on, Saya. There's no way that she's fine. It's glaringly obvious that her condition is dire. Even so, I'm the only one who's panicking. Saya's expression is serene, as though she understands everything. She even smiles softly as though trying to comfort me. I can't believe it. I never thought that the time would come so soon. I might lose Saya, the worst possible outcome, one I don't even want to imagine. I feel overwhelmed by anxiety and despair, as though I've returned to being a helpless infant. Don't be afraid. Remember what I said this afternoon? This is the sign. This is our only hope. What are you talking about? I don't understand. Saya, pull yourself together. Saya answers my tearful entreaty with a smile like that of a mother comforting her child. I did it. I decided to do my best. After all, you said that you loved me. You said that I was pretty. Stop this, Saya. I don't know what's happening. Whatever it is, though, I can't just sit by and watch it as it causes Saya such excruciating pain. Enough! Don't push yourself anymore. I don't know what you're trying to do, but I don't want to see you in pain. Don't be like that, Fuminori, Saya says with an exasperated smile. Please understand. In a soft voice, she reveals her secret. They're going to be born, our children. For a while, my mind goes completely blank. What? When did you... I'm surprised too, Fuminori. Saya's labored breathing speaks to how much pain her tiny body is suffering. Even so, she wraps her arms tightly around my neck. Take me outside, to an open place, under the sky. I nod. What else can I do? If I speak, I'm afraid that I'll be unable to hold back my tears. I mustn't cry, not when Saya is facing her torment so bravely. It feels like Saya is burning up in my arms, and I fear that the terrible convulsions that shoot through her at intervals would tear her frail body to pieces. Praying for her safety, I scoop Saya up and carry her swiftly out of the ruined building. Maybe the cold night air will soothe her fever even a little, but that hope is futile. Cruelly drenched as her breathing becomes more shallow, and as she moans through the bluish lips. Saya, we're outside. In response to my call, she opens her eyes once more. Her gaze is cloudily unfocused. It's clear that she has no longer can see. Nevertheless, Saya looks up at me. I can tell that she's imagining my expression where my face should be. Just as I promised, this is my final present. I know. I hope you be happy with it. Of course I will. It takes every ounce of my willpower, but I manage to take my voice light and cheerful. In Saya's mind's eye, I know that I'm smiling. She won't have to see my face streaked with tears. Fuminori, to you who loved me, I give this planet. Saya's whisper is weak in pain, but there is ecstasy in her voice, ecstasy and joy. Her back suddenly shifts, then bulges outward. This world will surely become beautiful, Saya says softly, as though reciting a prayer. A world just for us. Huh. She's transforming into Leafeon. And then Saya blooms. How else can I describe it? Flower petals, long and wide, they spread from her back like the wings of a newly formed butterfly. Their brilliant glow comes from the countless tiny scales that cover each petal like particles of light. Is this goodbye? I ask her, careful to keep the sorrow out of my voice. No, it isn't. This is the beginning. Saya's pain must have already left her, for her expression is infinitely peaceful and content. The beginning of our world. The radiant motes rise in the wind, covering the frozen winter sky with glittering rivers of light. It is beautiful, overwhelmingly painfully beautiful. It is a song that heralds the coming of the new world and the destruction of the old, singing victoriously of the freedom. The shining seeds of life are released to the vast, fertile land. It is a boundless healing. It is an eternal blessing. We shall fill the world with our joy. Now, we'll be together forever, won't we? Embracing Saya's pitifully shrunken body, I gaze into the shining sky and let my tears flow freely. Thank you. Thank you for this last gift, Saya. Oh, it's not over? Oh, I thought that was the ending. I could have sworn that was the ending. Well, I guess we get to see what Saya's doing from a different perspective, because she is right next to where this is all going on. She's in Ogai's house. She was worried, at first, about how long the preserved foods in the underground store would last her. But now it seems that her fears were unfounded. It's the liquor that she had worried about. By savoring each drop of spiritus? As though it were last, she thought that her flask would hold out a little longer, but she must have been consuming more each day than she realized. Who can blame her? In retrospect, there's no way that she could have gotten through this without the intoxicating effects of distilled alcohol. After Ryoko chased useless emotions like hope and despair from her mind, she found herself spending the most peaceful days of her life. As resignation set in, hate and fear left her. Now she feels only awe for what Ogai Masahiko did and respect for the depth of his intellectual curiosity. After all, neither she nor this world have any reason left to deny his research. Alone in the mountain cabin, Ryoko killed time by bringing order to the documents that Ogai left behind. She took the scattered, enciphered papers and rewrote them in a more readable fashion, eliminating redundancies and improving their ability to be indexed. Ryoko didn't intend for anyone to read them, of course. She knew full well how meaningless her actions were. With the reason to live gone, however, making something to devote her mind to was at last some relief. And now, with the last congratulatory drops of spiritus vodka burning their way down Ryoko's throat, all of Ogai's research lies before her in a single volume. She has finally finished transcribing and annotating the last of his writings. Enjoying the pointless satisfaction of a job well done, she idly pages through the manuscript that she has been completed. I shall conclude by summarizing my theory as it currently stands. The life form that I named Sai did not appear in our universe by chance, nor even as a result of my summoning, but because of the instincts that were programmed directly into her biology. She was created to fulfill the same ultimate purpose that all life shares: reproduction. Sai and her kind procreate by spreading their seeds to other dimensions. What is the probability that they will discover a doorway to another world? Even if they succeed in doing so, the chance of that world being suitable for reproduction must be even more minute. In order to make the most of that scant probability, evolution has granted them a certain ability, none other than the astonishing ability that I have witnessed in Saya. To wit, they select the most prosperous species that they encounter to take control of it, and in doing so gain dominance over the planet's biosphere. In other words, they hijack the entire species. Upon finding the species that exerts the most control over the planet, they overwrite its genetic code and remake it in their own image. Saya's body is more than capable of this. There is a significant probability that the target species will have evolved into intelligent life. This element may be necessary to gaining control of the planet's environment. Therefore, Saya and her sisters also plunder their target's culture and psychology. Her extraordinary learning ability and intellectual curiosity are likely instinctive tools that enable her to inherit the target species' entire wealth of knowledge. In fact, it may be that Saya's kind has always had their sights set on intelligent life. Perhaps they wait patiently for some foolish extra-dimensional species to gain knowledge of other worlds, and in attempting to fulfill its curiosity, make the contact with the outer universe in which they dwell. Rather than send Saya and her comrades on the dimensional journeys with only luck and their own strength to depend on, but not waiting for such a contact greatly increase the chance of finding a world worthy of conquest? Just as I, having acquired the silver key, fancied myself an explorer of the unknown. How many intelligent life forms in the other worlds have thoughtlessly congratulated themselves for discovering Saya's sisters? Taken by the sudden urge to go outside for a change. Oh, what? I did not hit enter. I did not skip that. That was wow. Well, I think that she just left the place. She drives a little further up the mountain to open a place that offers a scenic view of the land below. In the early days of the change, Ryoko often came to the spot to helplessly watch over the mutated city. The one flaw in my theory comes from none other than Saya herself. After using me to learn everything about humanity, Saya should have finally been prepared to begin the last stage of her invasion. However, she never carried out her mission. Why? I hypothesized that Saya was an irregular, even among her own kind. It is said that the human's race intelligence has allowed it to conquer its instincts. Perhaps I accidentally inherited the disease that infects our entire species. By absorbing the human psyche, she might have allowed the many schools of thought that conflict with her natural instincts to severely damage her reproductive urges. What is human love, really? What behavior could be more of a hindrance to the efficient propagation of a species? I am reminded of how, at the end of her studies, Saya consumed vast quantities of old and new romantic literature from all over the world. She tried to understand romance as an integral part of the human reproductive process. As a result, she might have unwittingly neutered her own unparalleled reproductive abilities. After all, she had not known love. She had come to this world to rule it in humanity's place, and had studied our own species in order to fulfill that purpose. But ultimately, she could not share love with a human. Without love's blessing, Saya was unable to find the enthusiasm necessary to fill this world with her kind. After learning everything there was to know about humanity, she herself became irreversibly human, weary of loneliness. She despaired of the world. How pure her maiden soul must have been. If this hypothesis is correct, then it means that I have found her as her teacher. I cannot help but feel ashamed for having spoiled such an extraordinary organism. Saya. Next to Ogai Masahiko, Ryoko now knows more about that entity than anyone else. No, when the young man called Sayasaka Fuminori is added to that running, perhaps she only comes in third. In the end, she never encountered the creature face to face. She would have liked to meet it once, though. If Ogai's analysis of Saya's psychology is correct, then it must have been Sayasaka who restored her desire to conquer the world. Perhaps as Sayasaka's chief physician, Ryoko played some role in bringing that lonely young man and Saya together, in which case she would at least have the right to attend their wedding, to end all weddings. If Ryoko were a man, she might even have charged them a matchmaker's fee. I have a dream that one day my daughter will know the blessings of love. I pray that there will come a day when her heart burns with the flames of passion, and her world becomes bright and joyous once more. When that day comes, Saya, your terrible, irresistible purpose will surely consume us. That your progeny might flourish, the whole world will know your love and be reborn. Ah, how glorious the future is. I deeply regret that I must end my life before I could see that day come, but the footsteps of those who would expose my dream are getting closer by the hour. If I seal my lips in death, then their vengeful hands will not reach you. Please forgive me, Saya, for leaving you alone in this barren world. With the knowledge that you now possess, I know that you will be able to find your own path. The radiance of your hard-won soul shall light the road ahead. Have no fear, have no doubt. March onward until you reach your answer at last. And I, Saya, will dream forever of the future that you will bring. Perhaps it's the isolated environment of the mountain's air. Maybe she's just more resistant to the change. Whatever the case, Ryoko has not yet become an inhuman as the creatures wriggling through the city below. She doesn't know exactly how many people on this planet could still be called human, but she's one of what must be only a handful of survivors who are left to watch over the end of human civilization. Of course, it's only a matter of time before she changes too. It's been 3 days since she chopped off her right hand, which has ceased to function as anything resembling a human hand. But the itching that is spread across her entire back is growing more intolerable by the hour. She could look in a mirror to see what she's becoming, but she doubts that would make her happy. Ryoko thinks that maybe it would be best to just go to sleep here, with the world spread out before her. When she awakens, perhaps she'll be ready to descend the mountain and join the city's revelries. Or maybe she won't even need such resolve anymore. Whatever the case, Ryoko thinks dreamily as she licks the very last drop of vodka from her flask. After I stop being human, I hope I'll still be able to enjoy the taste of booze. Well, that's the Saya No Uta. It was a little bit predictable here and then, though I believe the ending made up for it in full. I do enjoy that ending, though I really wish I would know if Saya actually lived through this. I'm sure I'm gonna go back and read the text or something, learn more about it, and understand more, because that was a little bit confusing because it all threw it at you at once. Plus I'm a bit tired right now, and I probably couldn't completely comprehend what happened. Though, it was a good game. Despite the way getting here being a little bit cliche. So, with that, thank you for watching this journey of a game, and goodbye.